Oh darling, you really mustn't struggle. This isn't my fault. No, this isn't yours either. Don't worry, this is going to be fun. For me, and eternal for you. As pain and pleasure collide, she who thirsts demands it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and today we're going to be looking at the Drukari, or the Dark Eldar, sex perverts of the 40k verse. Can I say that word on YouTube? Find out in a minute, won't we? So we're going to be looking at a little diorama that I've built. I'm going to dig into some of the lore towards the end, and yeah, let's just crack on, shall we? So I'm starting off this diorama a little bit different to how I usually do, which is instead of going straight for the models, this time I need the terrain to match the models. So I'm going to get myself a nice idea of what I want and how I want to go about it. I'm going to use these bits from War World Gaming. You can go check them out. I will put a link in the description if you want to go have a look at their website. Got fantastic bits up there, and they're all plastic, which is a massive win, especially when it comes to like terrain building or dioramas, as we can clearly see here. Just gonna stop there quickly because I've just been on their website, and it's a bit pricier than I remember, but they are still pretty good stuff. So, I mean, go have a look by all means. As I said, this isn't sponsored, so do it or don't. I don't really care. Just adding this in after the fact because I've just had a quick look at the website. So I just need to shift through, find the bits that I want, and then we can crack on with this build. Now that we have got our chosen items, I just need to secure it and lock it in as the correct answer so I don't go back and change my mind halfway through doing everything, and get them glued down to the MDF coaster now. And while that's doing its thing, let's get ourselves some models selected for this build. Ooh, I can feel some kit bashing coming on. So I want to replace that little bit of chain with some actual chain, because I want some length on this for what I want to do later on. I mean, we've all seen the thumbnail that I'm probably going to use for this, so I can go a little bit into it. And well, these Dark Eldar need to do them some kidnapping. And he ain't gonna be kidnapping no one with that tiny little chain. So I'm gonna add my own, and just so that we have some versatility for later. And then for our other Dark Eldar, because there was only one that had the chain feature on it, I couldn't use another chain. So I grabbed some arms that looked like they could be potentially pushing or pulling, and I've drilled 2 holes through the hands so that we can add a bit of wire in later and try and make it look like a whip or a lasso or some form of grabbing item. And actually that's going to be pretty crucial to getting the positioning of everything later. So once I've done that, that was pretty much the 2 bits of kit bashing done for our Drukari, or Dark Eldar. And next we're going to move on to the Cadians. There was a few chopping of hands, slicing of bodies going on with these guys. So I'm going to be starting off with the officer, or the platoon leader for our little Vox team, who are clearly out in front doing a little bit of recce work, trying to get some information gathered before a main assault. And for this, I need to sort of change some positions of some hands. Now, I'm grabbing one of the normal, just like las rifle holding hands from the Cadian kit. I'm going to chop him off and then add it to the medic's hand from the command kit, just so I can give him sort of like almost like a running position on his left arm. And then his right arm is just going to be carrying the bolter, which I believe came out of the... I don't know which kit this came out. It was already chopped off of sprue. I just found it in my bits box and was like, that's what I'm after. I think that's also in the command box. Can't quite remember. And that was pretty much the main bits of kit bashing I did for both Arcadians, was just changing some hands and positions of. Next, we're going to start to do something that I'm personally not the biggest fan of, and that is to get the models already stuck down to the base. Now, I've had to do this for sort of logistical reasons, really. As you can see in a moment, when we get the Cadian suspended up on that whip, that's what's going to be holding it in place, and then sorting out the chain. It was all going to be a bit of a mess. So I've decided to glue these 3 models down and get them placed now instead of later, so that it's less of a challenge when it comes to assembling and painting and then ruining paint jobs and so yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It is doable. It did make it slightly more challenging to paint, but here we are, is what it is. I will leave you with the rest of me trying to figure out how this base is going to go.
I look the other way. I don't see how it's got anything to do with me. Oh, hurry, I need my beat at any expense. It doesn't make sense, but every cell in my body needs its protein. Oh, grass is only for cows and rabbits that don't know how to kill and conquer, to win and rule. Oh, it's what we learn at school.
So, who are the Drukari, and where have they sort of come from? So, to start that off, we need to go back to the opening of the Eye of Terror, the birth of Slaanesh, the fall of the Eldar race. So prior to Slaanesh being birthed into the universe, the Eldar some were getting a bit bored. They had reached a level of total euphoria. They could literally print matter. They could destroy a planet and rebuild it in their own image. That's how technologically advanced they were. Also, they were effectively immortal. See, the Eldar soul, when they died, would go into the warp, and then they would be reborn as themselves. So they were effectively a form of perpetual, form of immortal, and therefore they were very extravagant in things they did, and obviously took pride and had pleasure. Now, it's these pleasures that led to their downfall. Starting to sort of come up to the fall of the Eldar, these cults, sort of sex cults, as you could say, were starting to emerge, and the perverse and the pain of everything was being mixed into one. Now, before this, the Exodites had seen the writing on the wall and had decided, no, we are getting out of here, and they left. The craft world Eldar, again, towards the end, saw the writing on the wall. They built their craft worlds and they left. Some of these sex cults, though, had found their way into the webway. Now, to explain the webway, just very briefly, it is sort of like a pocket dimension in between the universe, so the real world, and the immaterium, the warp. And this is what they used for fast and light travel, and also they built these immense cities, and one of the cities there was Filmora. Now, in Filmora is where the Dark Eldar, or the Drukari, really started to fester. And when Slaanesh was birthed into existence and the Eldar Crone worlds fell and just sort of eradicated themselves in these orgies of sex, cannibalism, violence, excruciating pain and torture. That is where Slaanesh, that's what Slaanesh feasted upon as she was birthed. He or she, no one really knows. It's very progressive, I suppose you could say. So the Dark Eldar, and the Eldar in general, stopped being able to use their psychic powers, especially to their full or their fullest. So the Dark Eldar just sort of stopped entirely, because that would draw Slaanesh to them, and they didn't want that. Once they realised they were no longer immortal, when they died, their souls would go into the warp, they would no longer be reborn, they would be, their soul would be consumed by Slaanesh. So they had to come up with another way of extending their life, and they realised that this pain and torment didn't have to come from them. They could inflict this pain and torment and torture onto others, and that would be enough to satisfy the soul drain that Slaanesh was having on, thus creating this society of people who would go on raiding parties to human worlds, Tau worlds, probably Orc worlds as well. You know, as long as the pain is being inflicted, the pain and the pleasure is there, Slaanesh gets what she needs, and the soul drain on the Eldar, or the Dark Eldar, they then get what they need. So it's a bit of a give and take. It's a bit of a weird one, I suppose. But that is why I've got depicted in this diorama these two Drukari, these two Dark Eldar, pretty much just popping out of nowhere because they can move so fast and so agilely that it almost seems to the human eye that they were teleporting. And they have managed to, they've seen this small comms party, this small comms unit, and they've gone, easy pickings, we can have them. So they've zapped upon them, they've got one of them, one's whipped a whip round, one's thrown their chain, and they've got hold of him, and you can see him desperately pointing at the comms unit, saying to his platoon leader, saying, you know, almost like his last words are, you need to call, you need to get on the Vox and tell command what is happening, what is appearing upon us, what is bearing down. But in the sheer fright of it all, his humanity, his need to not die, the officer has fled, and that may cause issues later. Because the Dark Eldar won't attack if they think they no longer have the upper hand. They've got no need for honor. They need to stop their soul drain, not preserve some la-di-da sense of honor. So if they think the fight is going to turn against them, they will just leave. They'll come back later. They'll wait for the element of surprise to always remain on their side. Anyway, this is what I love about the Dark Eldar. This is what I really enjoy about these dioramas, is I get to look into the lore of all these different factions and go, that is actually incredibly interesting. And then I like to share it onto you guys, so you can then, maybe you'll go, oh hey, actually that's really cool, I want to go look more into what Rig's been saying in this video, and maybe even start an army. Who knows? I don't know, probably not, but I like to think so anyway, my own headcanon. So anyway, that's a bit of lore, a bit of detail into why the Drukari are doing what they are doing in this video, and also explains my intro a little bit more. It's one of these Dark Eldar is now torturing the human that they have taken, and his torment probably won't end there. If you want to really look into something quite traumatizing, I suppose you could say, look at what the homunculi, do not ask me to spell that. Very dyslexic over here. So yeah, have a look at them. They're part of the Dark Eldar. Just have a look into them. They are very interesting. Not the type of guy that you'd want at your house party. Well guys, thank you so much for once again joining me on yet another hobby adventure. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope, you know, these little dioramas that I build, they're little insights into the lore, and they're just fun for me to build. So I really hope that this might inspire you to make your own, or maybe even start your own armies, just based on the little nuggets that I'm giving you. You can then go off and discover some more for yourselves. So I really do hope that you've enjoyed this. And also, French Mayo, thank you for suggesting this. I had the models ready pretty much in one of my boxes somewhere to go for this diorama, so great suggestion. I really enjoyed it. Also, someone mentioned something about orcs. I don't have any orc models at the moment, but stand by for those. And guys, I will see you in the next one.
Come on, no.
Don't worry.
This is going to be fun for me.
Say the don't worry bit.
Oh,
fucking hell!
I thought I already did the don't worry.
Right.